this is Tabitha Gill for JJ Learning Curve, and welcome to Money Abundance. The number one thing when you are doing a grocery budget is to figure out how much you are actually now spending. So anytime you want to manage money, your absolute first step is to look at what you're doing right now. Anytime you want to change any habit, the first step is what is happening, and to be able to accurately define that. And so I would take at least a month. Most people shop more than once a month. Find an app or physically keep receipts and take a month and shop normally and figure out and write down on paper how much you're actually spending. I mean the total. It's okay if you have household cleaning items or even vitamins or something in your budget. You don't have to deduct those things. If you regularly add those things into your grocery budget, you go in the grocery store and you buy your meds or something like that. Something that you and track it for at least 1 month. Why 30 days? Anytime you're trying to break a habit, which overspending is a habit, anytime you're trying to break a habit, it takes a minimum of 30 days for a reset. And actually, it takes like up to 3 months for you to actually completely set in that habit where you overcome obstacles that usually come up when you're trying to create a new habit long term. So a new habit becomes less conscious after 30 days, but that doesn't mean it's set in stone. You have to at least 3 months to overcome obstacles that will gradually come up. For instance, your grocery budget is going to differ depending on, let's say if it's the 1st of January and you want to lose weight. Well, you may be spending more money on vegetable section now, so now your grocery budget goes up. So that's why the number one thing is to do a 30-day count of how much money you're actually spending. And then after that 30 days, we'll go on to the next step. So go ahead right now. I would suggest that you get a book so that you can actually chart your 30-day spending. I'm going to give you an example. I have a folder and I physically write down. So here's an example, and I folded back of my grocery receipt. I didn't really buy much stuff in this receipt here. But you have your total as the total of the grocery receipt as well. And this is what I mean, just keep this stuff. You can staple them all together and just maybe circle where you actually take a pen and circle where you actually your total. And just keep track for 1 month. And at the end of that month, you're going to see how much for the month you spent at groceries. So if you stop at a grocery store or a kind of convenience store and buy groceries, doesn't matter, keep that convenience store receipt. Total up all the food that isn't eating out. So that's different. Eating out budget and a grocery budget is not the same thing. So your eating out stuff, I wouldn't count that. I would count only your grocery budget. We can deal with eating out budgets later. So after you've done that, the next step is I want you to do a local search, Yahoo, Google, MSN, whatever you use. Doesn't matter. Do a local search of your city, the area where you live in, and ask how much people usually spend on groceries. Believe it or not, these kind of statistics are actually something that government trends and local cities trend, and they will be able to give you an estimate of what the cost of living is in your area. It's also really important to know that, because if you're trying to set a grocery budget way below the cost of living of food in your area, is not going to work. But we're not talking about doing something once. We're talking about setting a consistent trend. And consistent trends have to be somewhat, they have to be workable. They have to be realistic. Average person spends on their groceries, and take your number of what you spend on your groceries a month and compare it. And why you do that comparison is to see if you're in the average. If you're way high, then it concludes not only you're feeling that you have a grocery budget management problem, but that actually gives you a number. So now you have an actual goal, and this is an important part of making a goal. Goals need to be not figurative, but they need to be functional. And what I mean by a functional goal is they have to be well defined. And so just saying, I have a grocery budget, I need to spend less. Well, how much less? How bad is it? And the only way to know is to do that kind of comparison. So now you have real numbers. So for instance, if you're one person, or if you're a couple, and let's say in your area, let's say you're in a city and you're a couple, and the average amount of money for a couple is $450, and you're spending $750. So you have a big problem there. You're spending $300 above the norm. So now okay, I have a definite problem. I'm way past above the medium norm groceries. Then you can go down. But then also when you try to go down, too how far down to go. You're not going to go from having a $750 grocery budget to expect by putting in a little bit of work going down to $300. That's not realistic for you. Best things too is to set aside time to do your grocery budget. Whatever you do, you need to set a separate time just to grocery shop budget and to review past grocery budget. That's how having control of your grocery budget goes from something that you kind of feel like you have control over to something you do have control over. Okay, thank you. Follow me for the next segment.